Yeah. Over their attitude.
We have agreed today to a common agenda and a shared determination to identify what action needs to be taken to tackle the problems we all face, to identify what reforms have worked where, what reforms have failed, and how we can learn the lessons, both of success and of failure. As part of this process, Britain will host a G8 conference of finance and social affairs ministers in the early months of our G8 presidency next year, and the Chancellor of the Exchequer will be announcing further details today. We have a shared language. We have a shared outlook on many of the issues that face us. We are determined, too, to share our ideas, our expertise, and our commitment to a new era of cooperation and of understanding.
We talked about how we could work together to shape a peace for the coming generation. We reviewed our efforts to complete the work that began 50 years ago with the Marshall Plan, building an undivided, peaceful Europe for the first time in history. Through NATO's enlargement, through its new partnership with Russia, its new agreement with Ukraine, a strengthened partnership for peace, an expanding European Union that reaches out to Europe's newly free nations. We agreed on the importance, as he has already said, of helping the parties in Bosnia fulfill their commitments under the Dayton Accord and continuing our support for all elements of it. There is about to be an election in Ireland. The United States, I have restated what the poll stars of our position are today. An unequivocal ceasefire, inclusive talks. But I think before I say or do anything more, as with every peace, this is a peace that has to be made by the parties themselves, and we need to let this unfold a little. But we'll be there, active and involved along the way. Now, as to Iran, obviously it's a very interesting development, and for those of us who don't feel privy to all the details of daily life in that country, it's at least a reaffirmation of the democratic process there. And it's interesting and it's hopeful. But from the point of view of the United States, what we hope for is a reconciliation with a country that does not believe that terrorism is a legitimate extension of political policies, that would not use violence to wreck a peace process in the Middle East, and would not be trying to develop weapons of mass destruction. I have never been pleased about the estrangements between the people of the United States and the people of Iran. They are a very great people, and I hope that the estrangement can be bridged. But those are three big hurdles that would have to be cleared, and we'll just have to hope for the best.
The United States has played, and I've no doubt will continue to play, a helpful role. And we obviously are carrying forward the process. We want to make sure that we can get into all-party talks. We've laid down the conditions for that. And I know that the United States is fully behind that, and I think that that is always helpful. I remember, too, the visit that President Clinton made some 18 months ago, when the huge optimism and hope that he ignited there in the province was tangible. And we want that back again. We want that sense that peace in Northern Ireland and ensuring that we get a lasting political settlement that endures is what the vast majority of people in Northern Ireland want. This is the great burning frustration of it, that we are so keen to make sure that the voice of that majority that wants a lasting settlement and that doesn't want to do it by anything other than democratic means is heard. Now, I believe it's possible that we can move this process forward, but it's got to be done with care. And I'm sure, as they've played a helpful role before, the United States will play a helpful role again.
Obviously, I think that Sinn Féin should participate in the talks, and I think the IRA should meet what I think has to be the precondition. You can't say we'll talk and shoot. We'll talk when we're happy and shoot when we're not. And every political process in the world is a struggle for principled compromise, which means when it's over, no one is ever 100% happy. So that is a decision that obviously all of them will have to make. But the people there do not want to be led in a destructive path anymore. I'm convinced the Catholics don't. I'm convinced the Protestants don't. I'm convinced the young are more insistent than the old. And to trap people in the prison of those past patterns, we talk about changing economic policy. A far greater tragedy is to move into the wonders of the 21st century with the shackles of what can only be characterized as almost primitive hatred of people because they are of different religions than you are.
I'll tell you what,
yeah, I mean, I'm
speak
sick
together?
of it because he's 7 years younger than I am and has no gray hair. So I resent it, but there doesn't seem to be anything I can do about it.
Look, I think it's a perfectly healthy thing if we realize that these are common developments the world over. I mean, this isn't just something that's to do with the United States or to do with Britain. There is a different generation of political leaders. I mean, I grew up, was born 10 years after the end of the Second World War. I grew up with Eastern Europe on our doorstep. I never thought that the politics of my type of political aspiration was the politics I saw in Eastern Europe. But what I took from my own political traditions was a belief in community, in justice, in a hatred of discrimination. But I want to apply those types of values in the different world. Now, if you take the welfare state, which we're trying to reform now here in Britain, and which President Clinton's done so much to reform in the United States, we believe in the values of that, but 1997 is not 1947 or 1937. So that's why the New Deal has to be updated for today's world, the welfare state has to be updated for today's world. And in Europe, you'll find the same issues being addressed today.
Prime Minister, are you the student?
To identify what reforms have worked where, what reforms have presidency next year, and the Chancellor of the Exchequer will be announcing further details today. We have a shared language. We have a shared outlook of cooperation and of understanding.